It's really about how wonderful you feel you are within that space and loving what you do no matter what. Because as an actor, it's called show business. It's not just about the show.
You've got to have assembled a number of stories that all I'm doing now is telling a story. But in the story, it tells you how good I am. So I never even have to say in an interview, I'm good. The story says it.
No for me is next opportunity. So it's just about finding out what that person needs and tweaking it for the next opportunity and not taking it personal.
I think the stores are the next great digital frontier. You're going to see a multi-billion-dollar shift as people realize that delivering that digital in store is actually more effective than Facebook and Instagram.
I'm Richard Gerhardt.
And I'm Elizabeth Gerhardt.
And you just heard from our guest this evening. There's more coming on Passage to Profit, so stay with us. I'm Richard Gerhardt.
And I'm Elizabeth Gerhardt.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the show that's all about entrepreneurs, small businesses, and the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Joining us this evening is Shondrella Avery, who's an actress, producer, and has appeared in a lot of really cool movies, including Napoleon, Dynamite, and and The Life of Bees. So.
Right. So, and after Chandrella, and I'm telling you, I can hardly wait to do this interview. She is hilarious already. After her, I'm going to give a little update on my startup Fireside, and then we're going to talk to Craig DeVizio. So how would you like to find the perfect job? Wouldn't we all? Well, Craig's got the secret. So
I think the perfect job is Passage to Profit, but
me too. Anyway, and then can foods made with cauliflower taste good? Yes, they can. So Amy will tell us how she does it.
You have to trust us.
And then Trevor Sumner's here, and I don't even know how to describe this. It is so cool. You have to go to his website to see it, but you will see it in a store and you will say, oh my gosh, I remember when that Trevor guy presented this on Passage to Profit. This is what they were talking about. Yeah. It's the future. It's really cool. So
yeah, we're looking forward to all of those things. But before we get to the meat of the program, it's time for IP in the News, one of my favorite segments for sure.
Okay, why don't you start?
I will do my best. So we all know, regular listeners of Passage to Profit who are really IP aficionados love the whole concept of inventorship. And, you know, we just get so many cards and letters about inventorship every week. And so this was a recent non-decision by the Supreme Court. I'm sure you all know that you can file to have a case heard by the Supreme Court, but it doesn't always happen, right? And so in this case, the Supreme Court decided not to hear this case, and it was about some inventors at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute who helped develop the cancer drug. And they were left off the patent by a company called Ono Pharmaceuticals. And of course, Dana-Farber sued Ono Pharmaceuticals to have the inventors placed on the patent. And of course, it worked out in Dana-Farber's favor. And so what happens a lot of times is you get into these inventor disputes because who invents on a patent controls who gets the money, right? So if Dana-Farber's inventors are erroneously omitted, then Dana-Farber doesn't get any money from the drug that Ono Pharmaceuticals is selling.
Well, they're lucky that Dana-Farber sued them now, because if they ever had to defend that patent in court, it could be invalidated because not all the inventors were on there, right?
That's right. Inventorship is really important in the US when it comes to patents. So,
and you actually helped somebody who was left off a patent.
I did, and he was a postdoc at Harvard University, and I shall say no more about it than that.
Okay.
Anyway, so yes.
Anyway, so it got to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, we're not interested in hearing this case. So it stands that the Dana-Farber people get to be on the patent.
Right, and so, Dana-Farber gets more money for their research.
So now on to our wacky patent.
Okay.
And this one actually, I mean, the idea behind this one is wonderful, but it shows.
You found this one.
I found this one. It shows a guy kneeling in front of a toilet.
Not that that's ever happened anywhere ever.
With this tube in his mouth, and the tube is going down into the toilet bowl and through the water and coming out the back end and into an airspace at the back of the toilet bowl.
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't disassembled your toilet lately, there is like a little bowl of water there, and then behind the bowl of water, there's a pipe that goes down to the sewer, right? And this guy's got a tube that goes under the water and into the sewer.
Isn't that what I just said?
Yes, well,
Anyway,
I wanted to say it too.
So anyway, it's if let's say there's a fire and you're stuck in the bathroom. He said this is really good for hotels. Then you get breathable sewer air. So you have to breathe sewer air, but you don't die.
There's a charcoal
filter
there.
Yes. Somehow this has never caught on.
I don't know. I think I would rather die than breathe air out of a sewer gas.
Well, hopefully we never face that challenge. So anyway.
I just want to know, how did this guy experiment with this? Did he do it himself? Did he?
I think he made his kids do it.
Probably.
But anyway, so our next segment is Richard's Roundtable. So our guests this evening get to comment on what they've just heard or some other aspect of IP.
That's right. So Chandrella, welcome to the show. So good to see you. And do you have any questions or comments about what you just heard?
Well, I do want to know if you'd really rather die than actually just I'm hoping that you're joking about that. I think I'd go for the whole sewer thing and just suck it up. I would.
I don't know. Could you live knowing you did that? Now that's the only.
Well, the point is the living part is pretty key. And I think right now in this day and age, I'd take anything to stay alive. So. But I do have a question, just in general. So as you all know, the Moderna vaccination is actually was founded by a Black woman, Dr. Lizzie Corbett, and she owns the patent on it. Yay! And I know, yay! And so humbled and excited about that experience for her at 35, like how remarkable. But I was just wondering, how does that work in terms of her patentship? So does she, because it is a government, and it could be a lame question, but I just am always fascinated by how are people compensated for that? Or is it a legacy thing? And I only ask because obviously there was the historical matter of Bruce's Beach here in California, Manhattan Beach, that was originally owned by a Black family and then eventually taken away and now recently given back to them. And I know that it's worth a certain dollar amount, but what about all the money that has been garnered from that particular beach? Will the family be given that? So I guess my question is kind of twofold, just because I see now that Dr. Lizzie Corbett is the owner of the patent for Moderna vaccination. And I'm just fascinated to know, how would that happen? How does that work for the rest of her life?
Well, so that's a great question. And having been in the world of pharmaceuticals for a while, what usually happens is that when somebody gets hired by a company, they sign an employment agreement and they agree to transfer any inventions over to the possession of the company. So at this point, it was probably likely, I mean, obviously I'd have to actually look at the paperwork, but it's likely that Moderna owns the intellectual property. And then it's up to them to reward the inventors in an appropriate way. A lot of corporations, and this is kind of a special case, so we kind of hope that Moderna would do something special for the inventor.
I hope the Nobel Committee will.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That's where it really shine, right?
Yeah. But that's how the system essentially works. And in this case, it wasn't you notice the case we talked about earlier, it was the companies, Ono Pharmaceutical and Dana-Farber, that were fighting it out, because the people that actually own the patents or invented the patents probably transferred their ownership to the companies, and they're the ones who are fighting about the money. So yeah, we hope that she gets a lot of recognition, and I'm sure her star is shining within the company. I'm sure she's hot scientific property. But
isn't that the vaccine you got? Didn't you get Moderna?
I did.
Yeah.
So I guess I owe her a big one. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I don't, does that answer your question or?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I just am curious, always curious. The other question I had was about Bruce's Beach. You know, what happens to the intellectual property from the past? Does that particular family get the arrearages of what they should have really been granted for all of these, you know, hundreds of years of not having the ownership, although they've discovered that they actually are the proper owners?
Well, so that comes down to, you know, damages. And in that particular case, it's probably an equitable decision by the court. They'll look at the facts and circumstances and they'll say, you know, are they owed compensation for that? And on the one hand, you could say they're the owners, but there'll be other factors that the court looks at too. So,
Okay.
So yeah, you know, but I would imagine that they would be entitled to some sort of compensation for you know, having their property, you know, wrongfully you know, taken from them. So
Okay. So
Thank you very much.
you're
thanks.
so welcome.
Great questions.
Craig, what are your thoughts?
I want to go back to the toilet. Unfortunately, Elizabeth, when you showed us that picture, it looked like a self-portrait. I can remember from my earlier years, I've been in that position a lot.
You know, I would.
And I think I needed that breathing tube because a lot of those times I was gasping for air, I guarantee. But I'm thinking maybe that person was a plumber or maybe he knew a plumber to come up with that. I think it's a brilliant idea. And as I heard that, the connection that I made was, as possibly distasteful as that is, sometimes it's those distasteful things that we have to do to keep businesses alive. I know a lot of things in my entrepreneurship, it's like, gosh, I really don't want to do that. As a matter of fact, I even detest doing that. It's the job that I like to stay away from the most, and yet maybe that's the one that I need to spend the most time on. And so that connection came to me immediately beyond the self-portrait part.
That's a great comment.
Yeah,
great
very-
insight.
Very good. Amy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, so I have two questions. One, I want to know how long the tube is.
It looks like
Genuinely.
The longer the
When do
better.
you
I
hit
don't
air?
know.
When does the, yeah, I'd love to know that. And then I get a question all the time, and maybe your viewers are interested in this, being in the food industry. I often get asked, did you patent your recipe? And as you know, you can't patent a recipe. You can trademark a recipe, but you can't patent. So like KFC holds their ingredients tight, Pepsi, Coca-Cola. So I was curious if you had any insight on that, on why you can't patent a recipe. You can probably maybe patent the proprietary process, but not the actual recipe. And I get asked that question all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, so did you go through a review with a intellectual property professional on your product, or?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so here's my opinion. You obviously got maybe a slightly different one. Food products are patented all the time. We file, you know, like the latest thing is the impossible meats. So we have a lot of people that are patenting new combinations of ingredients for meatless meat, right? To the extent that makes sense. So it is possible to do it. It's a business decision. Are you better off keeping the process and the ingredients a secret, so that nobody, you know, Coke kept their formula as a trade secret for years and years and years and years. And they had that secret longer than they would have had a patent, right? So in some cases, it's better to keep it as a trade secret. In other cases, you can patent it. But there's no rule in the law that says you can't patent a recipe.
Oh,
So.
interesting. Well, maybe I need a new patent lawyer.
Well, I mean,
well, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
I've always been told it's a trade secret and hold it tight, but you can't actually patent a recipe. So I'm glad to get that clarity.
Well, the
no,
reason
I hope all the patents we've been getting granted in the food industry.
No, but the reason they want you to keep it a trade secret is because once the patent is published, everybody gets to see what you have.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to be making it for 50 years, you only have protection for the first 20 with the patent, right? So that's why they keep it a trade secret.
And because you're, but you're publishing, usually you're publishing the list of ingredients on the package anyway for
Well, that's
anything that's
true.
edible. So everybody already knows what's in it. They just don't.
Except for that really natural flavors. Like, what is natural flavors? Now my sister-in-law says cat hair is a condiment. Would that I don't know. Anyway.
So Trevor, I'm sorry, did I answer all your questions?
You did. You gave me some clarity, and I'm going to change my answer on that.
Okay. Well,
patent recipe, and I'm wrong.
Well, happy to help. So if it helps. So Trevor, what are your thoughts?
Well, I come from an interesting perspective. My father worked at Bell Labs, AT&T, for about 50 years and had about 11 patents, and signed all of them away for $1 to AT&T. And, I think it's, some of the patents are really interesting. The T1 line, which was the first digital transmission line that, powered the internet for many corporations, or Unix, which is the base operating system of many of the computers that run the internet. And so had really kind of very large impacts and got $1 for each one, right? And while that, seems unfair, it's up to the companies to recognize, those accomplishments. And I think, it's a shame to have somebody kind of removed from that history, because, that log, that history, I think, is really important. And often trade groups will recognize the people who have furthered the field. So, for example, my father actually won the Alexander Graham Bell Award and the NEC Award, and has an Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers Award named after him. And part of that is the recognition of the patents and the things that he brought to the table. So I think, it's upon companies to do the right thing, to recognize the people who build new IP, who change the world with their ideas, and to not, there's no point in taking credit for them, because the companies get the credit anyway in the form of revenues and profits and products. And, they want to encourage the types of inventors and intellectual mindset and curiosity that lead to the types of innovation that change the world. And so I think we should be fighting for the right standards to recognize the people involved in the patents in the process.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because if you go to work for a company as an employee and you do something phenomenal like that, and they're just like, oh, well, then you're going to go somewhere else, right? And they're not going to be able to attract the great people.
Right. I think that's a great point. So, yeah, I agree. I think the recognition comes. Lots of scientists are not supposed to be so interested in money. They're supposed to be interested in scientific truth. Well, and then if you're not interested in that, you go start your own company if you want to make a lot of money. So
that is one sad thing, that scientists are not paid as much as entertainers in our society.
Yeah, I know the $1 million per episode we're getting here at Passage to Profit has really been a game changer for us. So
are you ready to take a quick break and then interview Chandrella?
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Okay. So you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit, and we're just having a lot of fun in between segments here. And Shondrella Avery, our guest this evening, mentioned that I said the bees instead of The Secret Life of Bees, which was the production that she starred in. So I stand corrected on that. Like I was thinking of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds and the Bees, but I was very confused. So yes. Welcome to the show, Chandrella. It's really great to have you. And you were at Second City, which is in Chicago, which is where I'm from. I went to a lot of Second City shows. It was fantastic entertainment. This would have been back in like the 80s. And so you're a comedian, you're an actress, you're a producer, and humor is, so important in everyday life. And, one of the questions is, do you have it? Or are you born with humor, or is it a skill that people can learn? And how has your humor developed over the years? So.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with all of you and to all of your viewers. I appreciate you listening. I want to say I believe that for me personally, I know God has given me the gift of humor and storytelling. I do come from very funny parents. So oftentimes when you look at your life, we're inherited by things from our families, hair, feet, toes, eyes, whatever. And so I do believe that our parents do deposit some of their gifts and talents within us. And so I do have very funny parents, but ultimately I arrived at this at a very young age. I was a speech contest winner in my elementary school. So public speaking, and I'm 6 feet. So I had a gift of, yes, I know you're looking like 6 feet. She's a giant. Yes. I am. I'm above the average height for a woman, but that also allowed me, and I come from a large family. So for me, funny storytelling was very easy for me. When you're in a large family, you just have to find a way to make sure that everyone shuts up and does their homework. And then on top of that, you can cultivate. I'll say for many people, oftentimes people work at it. There's a little thing in them, and then they begin to study different storytellers or other performers, and then they learn cadences from different people. I just felt that I was enough for what I did and cultivated that within the gift that was put into me. And then I fostered it by going to school just in general. I'm a theater major ultimately. So I wanted to understand the fundamentals and learn the history of theater and really become a thespian as opposed to just, someone that feels like they can act. And so there is a history to that. And I tell people all the time when people are like, oh my God, I just really think I want to do this. And I'm like, well, there's culture in this. There's, it's a spirit of obedience and discipleship that requires you to actually, harness your talent and grow it. So for me, the natural gift of funny was there. And on top of that, the history of storytelling, I studied it in school, and I really pride myself on knowing that I've chosen certain parts. One, God orders my steps. So for me, he'll tell me something, but because I'm intellectual about my material and my property, I really work very hard at making sure that each one of the voices that come from within me is actually done with the same amount of respect as I would like to give for myself as Shondrella Avery. So it's all those myriads together. Some people might say, hey, listen, I started studying. I studied Chris Rock, or I studied Richard Pryor, and that's great. Eddie Murphy. And those are wonderful people to follow and admire. But I think oftentimes if you sit back and rest in your own gifts, you'll find that whatever God put in you.
Well, I am glad to hear that, because I am told that I have a very strange sense of humor, but that I'm funny and I don't even know it. But I want to ask you about.
Amen to that.
I want to ask you about the show that you had on HBO, Ain't I Enough? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, while in school, two executive producers, Yvette Lee Bowser and Unetta T. Boone, they actually wrote, they wanted to really test me, I believe. They wanted to see if after coming out of school, or as I was going into graduate school, was I sophisticated enough to actually do a one-woman show? I come from a large family. I'm the eldest of 10 natural children, and my parents have fostered more than 200 plus children over 35, 36 years. And so I was telling them my life, look, it's a busy household. Mama's busy. And how can you make that into something that really tells the story of your fullness of your life? How do I have all these voices? Why am I empathetic and compassionate? Why do I want to have teamwork? Why do I come together and do that so well? And I just told them, look, I'm from a big family. I'm from South Central, and you have to harness that environment and say it's a community. It says it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it does. And in some instances, the village is the whole family themselves. So I they wrote a one-woman show called Ain't I Enough, because I am the eldest and I tell the story of what it's like being in a family of 200 children. And I take you through all the various characters. I did 10 characters, voices from my parents, my grandparents, my siblings, brothers and sisters, and then myself, and finding my own voice in a large family and us really still. So just 2 days ago on Sunday, the youngest child, my youngest brother, Adonis, he graduated from college and he's number 10. And so we all have done very well. You can come from the inner city, from what would be a disenfranchised community. And if your parents make smart choices, they will make sure that their children are in proper places. And listen, you can go all the way back to when, Black people were redlined in the community, in South Central and disenfranchised communities. But my father was an engineer. My mother was in education, and she decided they both came together and they made the best choices. And so our lives, to see my brother graduate, and we're called the bookend siblings. It's just a gift. It's something that only God can touch your family, and you have to, give proper, props where it's due. So I love the play. I did it. It ran on HBO and in their workspace as well. And that really promoted my career to going to different heights. So I tell our storytellers, do a one-woman show or a one-man show. Really get on stage, because let me tell you something, there's no more intimate space of when you know how gifted you are, when you stand on that stage and you're all by yourself and you have to tell that story and have a good memory and an absorption level to actually put forth that. Challenge yourself. Artists have to push themselves. I tell them all the time, just don't be lazy and willy-nilly around. Do your homework, lean in, take the hard opportunities, right? The quiet, still voices of some stories are oftentimes better than the ones that talk a lot. So learn the craft. And being a one-woman show and a thespian, that has really afforded me a great wealth of opportunity in this business overall,
That's great. So 200 kids. I bet family photos took forever, right?
Yeah, listen, they're all grown. I mean, I still have two siblings that are 18 and 19, and they are I say I'm one of 12, but my parents have taken them in and given them their name. And, I believe my parents educated us on the gift of philanthropy. We've been a philanthropic family, because when you're in the foster system, no one can pay you enough, no one can give you enough, where your children actually come out of that experience clothed and in their right minds from all of the things that some of those children bring to your home, that type of energy when they come from really heartfelt situations. So I couldn't have known it as a child, but I'm so thankful for my parents making that sacrifice. That has expounded upon my, as a storyteller, my love of compassion and empathy and the give back. And then it helps to really foster the characters that I've portrayed. And then as a producer, how many people I can hire and the things that I've done, all of that lends itself from my childhood. And I'm very thankful for that.
Well, so I love the storytelling piece. It's so important, especially it seems like in today's society. And, this is a show about entrepreneurism, which you obviously have created your own thing. So you are an entrepreneur. But entrepreneurs have to tell their story of their company, their story of their passion, their story of how they came to it. And investors like to hear those stories. And the more enthusiastic they are. So a lot of investors that we've talked to will say, well, I'm kind of looking at the technology, but I'm really looking at the person.
Right. And they oftentimes they invest in the team, and you don't know who the team is unless there's a story and a context that goes with the project. So yeah, that was very,
right.
very.
I mean, we're all a story, though, aren't we? I mean, you both are a story yourselves.
We're lots
You're not
of
the
stories.
first person who said that, but
we all are a story. Everyone has the story. Yeah. So any of your even within the food, I mean, Amy's going to tell you about food is a story. You can cultivate any story. I mean, Trevor told the story of his father. It's a story, and that story lends to the purpose of who he is, and then offering that for education for your viewers, So I think ultimately, this whole world is about, we can step outside and look at the trees and they're going to tell you their own story. This tree is doing something from this plant and this plant. And then we have to come together and actually make a beautiful entity where people can see. And that's really what all of it is. And I think if most of your inventors get back on your, independent entrepreneurship. It's really about how wonderful you feel you are within that space and loving what you do, no matter what. Because as an actor, it's called show business. It's not just about the show. It's about the business. And I am a businesswoman. So that makes me an entrepreneur. It's perception. It's how you see it. Because most times we get so caught up in the show. And like you said earlier, many people are not getting the bucks like, we get as a storyteller. But, not everyone, and some people are too, working 17, 18, 20 hours a day, and they should get, the bucks like we get, and I'm not saying that they're not, but there's bigger than us. What I may get, then the studio is getting on top of that, right? Because then they own the property, the intellectual property. Yeah. So I have decided in my business as a producer to make sure that I have ownership, because I'm not just out here just giving you my good looks.
Well, I got to tell you, Chandrella, I think I would much rather watch and listen to someone like you than most of the scientists.
There's a reason why you get paid.
But yeah.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah,
and this is kind of goes back to the craft, because I'm kind of like a nerd when it comes to process and all this stuff. Going out there night after night, doing the same Broadway show, what's that like? I mean, does it ever get stale? Do you constantly work on improving it? How does that piece work?
That's a great question. I'll answer first. No, it never gets stale, because every night there's a new person coming to hear this person's story. And if the story is about me, then you're coming to hear the perspective of my experience. If I'm pretending in another imaginary world, then I'm excited as a storyteller to convey that person's narrative to the audience. And you're coming there for an experience. So for me, no, it never gets tired. It never, I was in Napoleon Dynamite, as you mentioned. I just did, while here I'm on holiday, quasi holiday, I just signed, 200 autographs. It never gets tired. People make little memes with me, and they make little, kitten balls and with characters of myself and Aaron. It never gets old, because again, you've breathed life into these characters. And so each night we go out, it's like, you all come here. Is it ever stale? No, because you're going to meet 3 or 4 different new people. Absolutely. And they're going to enlighten you about life and their experiences. And so in the business of entrepreneurship, when you step out, you knock on that door or you make that phone call, that might be that one that take you to that next level and elevate you again and again. So no, if you're doing what you love and you're excited about it, even if it adds no profit to you, because before I was a financially successful, storyteller and producer, I made no money, but I knew I was good. And so, and even then you still keep going higher and higher, and God will order your steps. You just have to step into it, lean deeply into it, and just salivate in all the hardships that you're going to experience, all the rejections, all the no's. It's okay, because that says that you're getting closer to your bigger victory. So you hang in there. So yeah, listen, it never gets stale for me. Every day I step on stage, like it's a new night with new people, new claps and applause and new experiences. So there's going to be a little, no matter how much I've absorbed the narrative, someone's going to do a moment, they're going to look a certain way that's going to change my energy in that conversation. So I don't beat it up. I never rehearse before. When you're doing stage, it's different. They need you to rehearse a lot, but I'm also a storyteller in front of the camera on screen. And I've come up in a society where as an actor in college, we never rehearsed, because then that makes it so like drawn out. Now we know the beats. No, we're having a real conversation in real time. So let's have it. And whatever comes of that, that's what it will be. So I always get excited about that, because I don't know what Amy's going to bring today or what Trevor's going to bring. But if I show up ready to play, then we play. And when you go outside and play, you don't know what kid is going to say, hey, you tripped me, or, oh, I like that. You never know. Come ready to play. And every entrepreneur should take that childlike energy and enthusiasm with them when they go out, because this might be the day you're going to meet your best friend and your life is going to change.
That is
Wow.
excellent advice. I got to ask you though something, Chandrella. If your dad is an engineer, which you said he is, what did he think about you going into comedy and acting? Like, because my mother, honestly, she was appalled that I wanted to be a chemist. She was like, why would you do that? So what did your engineer father think about you going the other way?
He didn't like it. Trust me. It was a hard fought battle. He was not pleased. He really felt that, how should I say this politely, that storytellers in his era were not respectable women. That's what he felt. And I am the eldest, and I set the pace from all of my siblings. And he felt that I should become a lawyer. He felt that my height would allow me the authority that would help me. I had great conversation, diction, grammar. They had put all of this investment in me in my younger life, that they felt that was what my father felt, that was the best direction. But, once I got to high school, I went to Performing Arts High School, and my mother really just said, you got to just let this girl do what she's going to do, because I'm going to do it anyway. It's just a matter of how you do it. So we had an agreement. My father said, all right, if you want to do this whole play pretend story thing, then what you need to do is I need you to get a real job with a business card. And that was the agreement we made when I came out of high school going into college. And so I worked for Hilton Hotels Corporation as a senior supplier executive. I had a staff of 10 at 22. And I had a corner office in Beverly Hills, and I had a business card. And my father paraded up and down the hallways, and he saw my team. I don't know how God allowed me to have all of that. Maybe it was the height or my conversation or just my ability to make sure that I can do what I wanted to do, but to actually please my father. And he had that business card and my notepad with my name. I had a corporate card, and I traveled all over brokering lighting packages, negotiations for Hilton's worldwide. And you know what I say? I thank God my father did that to me. I really do, because I wouldn't be the type of producer that I am today. Being able to manage people, not just because I come from a large family, but actually knowing the structure of business, coming to work, showing up, dressing up for work. He worked for Northrop for many, many years, and he was, a lead man. He was an engineer, so he dressed up to work. So those things I didn't really think were going to make a difference. It pleased him, but it actually blessed me. And so I was able to tell the stories, and then he was able to brag about me at the barbershop. So, hey.
Well, I could talk to you for hours, but unfortunately we don't have that much time right now. We're going to have to go to break, but I hope you can stick around and advise our entrepreneurs and interact with them as they give their stories.
Absolutely. I'd be pleased. I can't wait to hear everyone's story, especially Amy with her secrets. I want to know about this.
So you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, our special guest, Shondrella Avery, and we will be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with our special guest, Shondrella Avery. It has been a wild and wacky ride and a great show. So blessed to have her with us. But before we get on to our presenters, it's time for our fireside spot. So Elizabeth, what's been going on with Fireside?
So for those of you who don't know, I started this project about a year ago called Fireside Directory. And it's a video directory of small businesses. And I spent a year doing interviews during COVID over Zoom, got over 100 videos now. And I need to redo my website. So I am just thrilled to be able to announce that I have hired a chief operating officer who is also my chief tech officer, who knows a ton about tech and is really going to help me get the website where I need it to be. And then also I outlined the project for him and he signed a confidentiality agreement.
Well, thank you very much, Richard and Elizabeth, for being on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a corporate trainer. I go into large corporations in corporate America and teach workshops and seminars, primarily around leadership and communication. I started my career teaching college. I taught for 13 years. Then I decided I wanted to get out of that sector and get into business. And so I hired on as a paid trainer for 2 training companies. So I had to learn their materials. Then they sent me across the US into large corporations to deliver their material. I just happened to be in Chicago, Richard, and was comfortable enough with the HR person to ask them a question. I said, I know how much I'm making teaching this workshop. And at that point, it was $400 a day. How much is the company I'm representing charging you for me to be here today? And Elizabeth, when they said $3,500, I immediately said, I'm in the wrong business. And that was it's like, what's wrong with this picture, right? I decided at that point, I really needed to think about starting my own business. It just seemed to happen at that point that other corporations that I was in teaching were asking me, Craig, have you ever thought about starting your own business? We love your training style. Are there other courses you can teach beyond what you're doing now? Are you open to developing your own material? And so all of that happened in a very short period of time. I started my own business. I developed 10 different workshops that I teach, and I've been teaching for myself now for 32 years. The last couple of years have been really difficult as in-class training has all but evaporated. And so we had to completely change our business model. And now we're moving into the virtual and online space. I just recently converted my 2 most popular courses, my leadership course for feedback and my interviewing skills course, to online courses. And Elizabeth, as you mentioned, I just wrote my first book on interviewing. So now we're able to get that material to the, I don't even know what the number is right now, the millions of people who are out of work because of the pandemic. Now we're able to provide that with them. So right now we are totally in the virtual space, not going into face-to-face classes at all anymore.
What's the name of your book?
The title of the book is, interesting enough, I didn't even come up with the title of the book. My students came up with it. I'd teach students in the classroom. They would go out, be successful in the interview, and almost to a person, they would write me an email back and say the exact same thing. They'd say, hey, Craig, thanks for the help. I got the job. And so it was a perfect title for the book. So the title is I Got the Job, because that's what everybody says after they are successful in an interview.
That's great. And so when you're training, you're training people how to find jobs? Is that your major focus, or do you cover a lot of different topics? I think you mentioned leadership too. Right?
Yeah, it is. In terms of the interviewing skills course, it's not as much career search, because that changes almost monthly, depending on the situation of the economy. So the book is really on, okay, now you've got an interview, whether it is and this part has changed dramatically because interviews used to be face-to-face. Now people are doing virtual interviews, and a lot of people, you probably have them on the show, you've got, even in your directions, have to advise them what to do with your background, what to do with your camera, what to do with your lighting. So many people don't know how to do an interview virtually. So it is all about the interview, taking people from who don't know anything, who may be interviewing for their very first job, all the way up to, I'd say, the vice presidential level. And all the people in between, how to do an interview, all the things because when you get into the C-suites, the COOs, and interviewing changes dramatically. So I decided, let me go ahead and pick the biggest sector of people and help them get a job, because I've personally conducted over the last 40 years, thousands of interviews, and people really struggle with this process. And right now, again, there's so many people who need to know how to do it, because competition now is greater than ever before.
Chandrella, do you have a question?
Oh, no, I was going to let him finish his thought. He said something intriguing. Go ahead, Craig. Sorry.
I tell people all the time, I said, doing a good interview prior to the pandemic may have been good enough for you to secure the job of your choice. I don't think it is now. You've got to raise your game some because the competition is just so stiff. But I want to piggyback on Chandrella, a couple of things that you said. I'm amazed at the number of people who are in careers now. And I almost want to ask them a question. How did you get where you are now? Because you are certainly not using your gift and your talent. I personally believe, as you said, that everybody's got a God-given gift. And I think from a very early age, in high schools and colleges, we should be helping people find what is your gift and your talent. Because if you can find a way to make a career in that, you are going to do better than most people easily. You're not going to struggle with this. You're just using your gift and your talent. And it was easy to see, Chandrella, as you were talking, the energy and enthusiasm with which you were telling your story. Everybody may not be as eloquent in saying it, but when you talk to an entrepreneur about why they're doing what they're doing, if their energy and the enthusiasm and the light bulb in their eyes is not going off, they need to consider doing something else because, again, as you mentioned, it's a struggle. Everything isn't easy in this process, but it will be easier if you found the right job to get into using your gift and talent. And so I talk a lot about that also in the book. Find this, and then now that you found it, how do you go about either starting your own business or interviewing for a job of your choice? And a lot of people really struggle with that process. So.
Yeah, I did have one quick question for you, Craig. That's
Sure.
excellent. You said it very poetically, and I appreciate that. When you, that's one of the things I do a lot of mentoring to young high schoolers in the inner city and the disenfranchised communities. I've done that since I entered into the business because I come from the community and I understand not all of us have the same type of parents. So I always say, and that's one of the questions that I'm always asked, how do I continue to audition, if you will? Time after time after time again. And I say, it's really not an audition. It's an opportunity for me to invite you into the conversation that I have figured out at home, and I come and I play pretend. And so for you, what is maybe one or two things that you offer, not giving away the whole book, because I'm definitely going to support it and purchase it because I think it's important. I got the job, and we always say booked it, in our industry. It's like they'll put up a post, booked it, what are one of the things that you might say, one key factor besides the enthusiasm and the energy, which is what you definitely said. I always tell people eye contact, but I also say have an absorption of the knowledge of who you are and what you're saying. And when you go, then be prepared for another question that may come, but you won't be stumped if you have the fullness and understanding of the job. Is there one thing that you offer to people that may be beneficial for you?
Yeah, the thing that stands out around your question is that people misinterpret what interviews are really all about. You can go online and find a million answers to how do I handle this question or how do I handle that question. Interviewing is not about having great answers. You can have great answers and still not get hired. So if that is the case, what's the problem? Interviews are really about making a personal connection with the interviewers. Use your word. This is your audition. I'm wanting to bring you into my family for an extended period of time. You're not just here for a day or two. Once we hire you, if we don't like you or you don't work out, it's going to be hard for us to move past that. So this is about not only making a connection with people, but also in the process of that, selling yourself. And so many people really struggle with walking that very fine line between promoting yourself in a way that shows what you not only offer the company, but how it's good for you. But they also struggle with the fact with how do I do that and not appear arrogant, self-centered, and conceited? And let's go right back to what you talked about. I talk about how to do that with telling stories. You've got to have assembled a number of stories that all I'm doing now is telling a story. But in the story, it tells you how good I am. So I never even have to say in an interview, I'm good. The story says it.
Thank you. Very well said.
That is profound. I love that.
I think that's such good advice, and what a great way to deliver information about yourself. Because when you're telling a story, you're part of it, but there's also this more objective. You're talking about the context, and you're talking about the things that you did and what your other team members maybe did, and how you all contributed and worked together to achieve a goal. I think that is like the perfect way to interview. So that's amazing. So is that really your focus now, is really trying to help people find work? Do you do one-on-one sessions? Do you do, are people watching videos? Are these live videos that you're doing where people can ask questions?
When all the business dropped away because of the pandemic and other things, we were at a turning point, and I had absolutely no idea how to convert the business to online. I thrive off of being in a classroom and getting that immediate feedback and looking in people's eyes and reading their body language and all of that. And so now I'm looking at a 1-inch camera lens. How am I going to replicate the magic, sitting in a studio trying to help people? So I started out doing videos on YouTube. I said, I'm not ready to create an online course to make public to help people. I started doing videos. And once I got good enough with the videos that as I watched them, I said, okay, now you can record an online course. Now start. So I've got over 100 videos on YouTube. A lot of them around leadership, a lot are around interviewing. And then I recorded the feedback course and then the interviewing course. And so primarily right now, Richard, a really good question. I'm focusing on converting more of my courses to online courses, not doing a lot of personal coaching, though I'm open to that. As you maybe purchase an online course, there are options. And one of the options, or they call them add-ons, would be to have a 30-minute session with me, an hour session with me, that type of thing. So there's a lot of options within that process. And, even the book is listed in 3 different formats. You get a paperback, an ebook, or an audiobook. I'm trying to get the material to the people that need it in a format that is their best learning style.
So we're going to have to wrap up. I'm sorry, we're short on time, but I want to just really very quickly, one last thing. Who is your target client? So who do you help the most? Like, I know you help everybody across the spectrum, but who do you focus on?
Right now, for the interviewing course, it is individuals primarily who are out of work and or wanting to move up in their company. And for the leadership course, I'm really targeting corporations, not individuals, but corporations who can buy 500 viewings of the course.
Okay, and people can find you at Craig Divizio, which is CraigDivizio.com, right? So
that is correct. That is correct.
And as far as I'm concerned, Craig, you got the job. So
yeah. Why was that great? We heard our son say that after college.
I love it. I'm going to go tell all my friends.
Well,
Thank
we'll
you.
Be right back.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it was so great to have you. Thank you so much. And you are listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhart. We'll be right back after this message.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhart, and our special guest this evening, Shondrella Avery. And yay! And if you missed Chandrella, you don't want to do that. So go listen to the podcast tomorrow because.
And Craig too, if you're looking for leadership or business career advice, he's a great connection.
Right. So it's the Passage to Profit podcast, and it's definitely worth listening to. Now we are on to our next presenter, Amy Lacy. And Amy has done almost the impossible with food. So I'll let her explain. Welcome, Amy.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me. This is so exciting because storytelling definitely is part of my journey. And so where my story started was I'm one of 50 million that have autoimmune. So I was taking my mess and making a message out of it. And I knew I needed to use food as medicine. So I needed to change the way I was eating. And I grew up on comfort food. And I want to say, God bless your parents, because I'm part of that foster system, which has made me scrappy, I think, and helped me along my journey. But I really was just looking for a way to eat pizza again because it's one of my favorite foods and I'm a mom of 3 kids. And so I went online and I found this recipe using cauliflower. And mind you, in the store, all there was a head of cauliflower at the time. So when I saw the recipe, I was like, not sure. It's not a vegetable I ate because it wasn't green. I thought all vegetables had to be green. It's kind of smelly when you cook with it, but I thought I'd give it a shot. It was a disaster. It fell apart. It was a mess. I tried it again and again because the recipe was grain free and gluten free. And I had to be gluten free, but a lot of products out there were not healthy. And I was having a lot of inflammation, which was causing terrible side effects to my condition that I had. So long story short, I made this, finally perfected the recipe. Friends loved it, tried it on family. Even my pickiest eaters ate it because cauliflower is so bland. So if you don't like the vegetable, you can hide it. I wrote a cookbook and it's a national bestseller. And I even have a dessert pizza in there where you will not know that it has cauliflower in it. But I took it to farmers market. It started getting a lot of buzz in our local town, and I was encouraged to take it online. So my business actually really grew online, and it was through storytelling. I started telling the stories of people that I met at farmers market, including my own story. But I had some cancer patients that were put on a grain-free diet, really a keto diet, to be honest with you, and our product fit that. And so through storytelling and telling other people's stories, my business exploded online. And one particular story went viral. And in 2017, we started selling a pizza crust every 3 seconds online. And we were the #1 brand for all pizza crusts, not just cauliflower, on Amazon. So we really blew up, and I had to become the CEO, CFO, CMO, and learn real quickly how to run a food company that just, it's a $1 billion category now. No, I'm not a billionaire. There's, there's Green Giant. There's all the big guys are in there now. But I started and I was the one of 2 of the first ones out on the market. Wow. So yeah, that's how my story, really, it was just me taking my mess and making a message out of it. And with God's help, he really guided me on the stories, and they blew up. And yeah, so here I am today. We're nationwide in grocery, and we're still doing a very good business online. And I have to say, I did go to a similar course that you teach early on, and I learned techniques on how to use email and how to sell, like have the IP of my email and own that versus just using social media, and how to really tell stories, other people's stories. So often I talk about the 5 P's of my business, and one of them is having a really authentic product. So we're only 3 ingredients, our base, which is fresh cauliflower. We use the whole head because we don't want to waste it. And then a little bit of cheese and some eggs, and we have a dairy-free option as well. But being very authentic, having a lot of passion, paying it forward. So we're a philanthropy all the way. Making sure that you have the right people around you. So people that have done this before and have done it bigger and better than myself. So really learning from my mentors. And then perseverance, because there's a lot of highs in being an entrepreneur and a lot of lows, and you got to be able to persevere through. So yeah, it's an honor to be here. And I hope even if you don't like cauliflower, you'll give it a try, because I promise you that you can hide the taste of the vegetable, and it's amazing.
I wanted to ask you about that because I thought I saw on your website that you've moved beyond pizza to other comfort foods.
We are. So I did grow up on comfort food and a lot of rice cereal, biscuits and gravy, and things that were really inexpensive to make. And so I wanted to recreate that. So we have lasagnas. Mexican food is another favorite of mine. So we have enchiladas. The cookbook that I wrote, you can make sushi. It happens to be one of my favorite foods now. And so, yeah, in the nationwide grocery stores, we're selling our entrees, we're selling our flatbreads, we're selling our tortillas, pizzas, pizza crusts, and online.
After all of this, is pizza still your favorite food?
It is. It's my favorite. It's my lifetime favorite food, and it's definitely my favorite food of my children. which
Uh-huh.
were my taste testers for many years. They were testing all my products. So, and I have one kid that does not eat vegetables, and I was able to sneak it in there, and he ate it, didn't know it, and loved it.
So you're inspiring me, Amy, because whenever the waiter comes up and says, "Well, we have cauliflower soup," I'm usually like, "Nope, sorry, I'll try the gazpacho." But now I'm motivated to go out and give cauliflower another try. So
Well, it's a bland vegetable, so it takes on whatever flavors you put with it. So if it's done right, you can hide it. And look, when I started playing with it, it was like the Lone Ranger on a veggie tray at a party, right? It was the last thing that was ever eaten.
right.
Nobody was talking about cauliflower. Now it's like this huge buzz. You don't go into a grocery store without seeing, in the frozen section, which, by the way, I feel like we've reinvented to be healthier. See a lot of cauliflower products. So it's become definitely a $1 billion category. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not even close to a billionaire, but I like that.
Yeah, but you're on your way. You're on your way.
I had a hand in creating it, and I love it. I love it.
So Chandrella, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I wanted to know what's the name of the book? I think you said a recipe book, and I didn't get the name of so that I can go and support, because I love cauliflower. Like, I love it, and I love pizza. Are you kidding me? Yes, I eat cauliflower all the time because I have food plans that actually send me whenever I'm on set. I have to eat healthy, right? So I constantly, in every food plan I've ever ordered, they always have cauliflower. But fortunately for me, I grew up on cauliflower. I actually love it. And pizza is one of my favorite foods. And so is Mexican food. So please, where's your book? Where is it? What is it? So I can go and get it today.
So it's Cali'flour Kitchen. So it's spelled, so it's like cauliflower because then we created it in California, and that's where all of the cauliflower fields are that we use.
Yep.
We work with farmers, and that's where our manufacturing plant is, which I now own, which is amazing. Being a woman entrepreneur and owning your own plant.
Wow.
Yeah, so Cali'flour Kitchen, and spelled just like California, CALIFLOUR Foods is our .com is our website, and Cauliflower Kitchen is the cookbook. Abrams was my publisher out of New York, so I'll have to get the high tea places from you at some point as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really blessed to. And by the way, when you were talking about entrepreneurs and you were saying that we get no a lot, yes, no for me is next opportunity. So it's just about finding out what that person needs and tweaking it for the next opportunity and not taking it personal. So I love that advice that you gave.
Thank you. And I love that next opportunity. No.
Yeah, have you gotten a trademark on that? I love that. No equals next opportunity. I'm writing that down.
No, but you know what I wish I would? I coined the phrase, if cauliflower can be pizza, you, my dear, can be anything. I was the first person to post that and the first person to say that. And now there's t-shirts and everything. I need a new IP person. That's just
We can always ask Richard.
Yeah, we're always happy to help out. But
I love that no equals next opportunity. That is brilliant. Seriously. I can see why you're successful with that attitude.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I have a scrappiness about me, and I think it comes from my childhood. So God bless your parents and my faith, which I didn't always have.
Amen.
Amen.
So, amen.
That's great. So unfortunately, we're running out of time, Amy, but it's really fascinating to hear your story and learn about cauliflower. It's so healthy for you. I'm a keto eater myself, and so I'm always looking for new vegetables because there's just a limited number of vegetables out there. And I'd like to integrate cauliflower into my diet, especially if I can do it with pizza. So,
I know, right? And the other comfort foods
too. All kinds of things there, even desserts.
Woo!
Like cauliflower cheesecake.
Yeah, or cookies or chocolate pizza, all kinds of things.
Oh, wow. That sounds really great.
I have to check out this cookbook. I'm with you, Chandrella. I want to check out this cookbook.
Cauliflower is the new superfood, so absolutely. So anyway, we're here at Passage to Profit. We have to take a commercial break, but we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart on WOR 710. And our special guest this evening, Shondrella Avery. And by the way, her name is spelled Shondrella, just like it sounds. Avery, Avery. And you can find her on Instagram and Facebook. So just type in Shondrella Avery. She's an actress, she's a producer, she's giving back to the community in many ways. You'll find her. So it's just been a pleasure. And listen to the podcast if you just tuned in, because we've been having so much fun, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we're on to our third presenter, Trevor Sumner. And I just have to say, Trevor is the future of in-store shopping and advertising. I don't even know how to describe this, so I'm going to let him tell you. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really inspired by everybody on the show. And Amy, I think your product's great. I believe in using cauliflower for carbless mashed potatoes. And I think probably one of your big challenges is how do you tell your product story, in store where 85% of transactions occur, because you're on the shelf with every other product. And, that's what we do at Perch. We know the shopper's behavior has changed. We go online. 87% of people begin their searches online because that's where the product content is. That's where Amy's story is, and Chandrella's story, and Craig's story. And we want videos, we want ratings and reviews. And ironically, where 85% of transactions occur in store is the desert of digital. There's none. It's just a bunch of products on the shelf. And we're trying to change that at Perch. And so what we do is we provide interactive touchscreens in retail. And what's cool about them is, like Minority Report, there's a camera looking over, and the moment that you touch a product, it just wakes up and starts telling you about the product, whether that's Cali'flour Foods or a Johnson & Johnson product. We work with Purina, tell me about Whole Foods for pets. We work in the beauty industry, explaining skincare, and the idea here is to really help people marry the best of both physical and digital shopping, because people go in store and 27% of them actually say, oh, I like this product, I'm going to go online and research it, and then they buy it somewhere else, right? Because we're so needy of the information. So we work with some of the biggest clients out there: Johnson & Johnson, Purina, Nestle, Macy's. And our goal is to really change the way we shop in store. It's a pretty exciting time because of everything that's going on in retail. And as we go back into stores post-pandemic, we're just seeing a lot of activity. And I think one of the other cool things is, if you think about it, there's complete blindness to what happens in store where 85% of these transactions occur. Amy, you can't tell me how many people pick up your product, look at it. You can't tell me who they are. You can't, tell me what demographics they are. You barely probably get any, sales data on a store basis from retailers. And the reality is you need that information just like you would need it online to run a website. Just retailers don't provide it. So we're really empowering brands to have control of their brand and bring in the content that helps connect them to shoppers and helps shoppers really understand the products that they're buying and feel more confident and buy the right products for them.
Wow, that sounds great. So I take my cell phone when I go shopping now, and if I see something new, I'll look it up on Amazon or something, and then look at the ratings and what have you, and then make a decision, to buy it. And for a long time, I think Walmart and some other large retailers actually had internet service blocked into the stores because they didn't want people doing that kind of comparison. But now that seems to have changed, and people have access to the information that way. But the challenge is that the seller doesn't really, the market provider really doesn't get any information about the product that way, and they really can't control it the same way that you can, right?
Yeah, and it's also hard, right? You got to pull out your mobile phone, then you got to search for the product, and maybe it's the right product, maybe it's not the right product. And for Walmart, if you're pulling out Amazon, that's a real problem, right? You want them to get the Walmart information, maybe show a QR code, make it really easy to use the mobile phone, and go to the Walmart site, and then they cookie you. And then when you leave the store, they know that you were interested in that product, and they can retarget you and basically build that information. So, it's really about getting control back of, if you're a brand, of your brand message, of utilizing all the content that you have, of a retailer, to be able to engage the shopper in store to help convert them to mobile and online. So when they leave the store, you have a deeper relationship. And then of course, for the shopper, just to have, the information that they need to make confident decisions about what to shop for.
Well, I very rarely shop. Just kidding. I shop continuously.
Don't believe that.
But I do. So I think this is brilliant because, first of all, go to his website, perchinteractive.com. He's got this beautiful display that pops up. Anyways, but the reason I'm so into this is because I'll shop online and I'll say, nah, I'm not going to buy that because I want to see it in person. And then I might go see it in person and I'm like, well, what are the reviews on this? I can't see the reviews now, but you let people see the reviews in the store. So it's like almost like watching a YouTube video on how to use it, if it's some sort of product, when you're actually there with it, which you don't really get that experience anywhere else unless you have a person helping you, which you may not even want because sometimes I just want to do it in private, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And more than half of shoppers think that they know more than the sales associates, especially in mass retail, because they have access to that content. And it's really just, providing that content at the point of consideration. And on average, we're showing 87% sales lift for products that use this technology. And Amy, how much would you pay to get 87% sales lift?
Well, I like your idea because I think it can help revitalize brick and mortar retailing, right? And so everything is sort of trending online, but I think there's still a value in having some place to go, make it a social occasion with your friends or your family. And this kind of combines the internet shopping with the experience of being in the store. And gives people a chance to look at the products and pick them up but also get the information that they would get when they're shopping online. So I think it's a great thing because I do think we would lose something if everything was always bought online. You'd lose a good experience.
There's some things you really can't. So I have very sensitive skin. So I typically don't buy products for my skin online. I have to go into the store, but it would be nice to see the reviews and it would be nice to see comments by other people. Like I used this for 3 days and then my face broke out or what, so the combination is really, I think, very powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I like to say that, over the past year, we've been able to, basically buy everything online and have it delivered. And I think, we can all say that it was a pretty soulless year, right? I mean, shopping is really a social experience. And we're trying to bring together kind of the best of both worlds. And, people say, yes, e-commerce is growing faster on a percentage basis, but interesting, fun fact, physical stores are growing more on a dollar basis because it's just so much more. So, people have this retail apocalypse narrative. And, the reality is physical retail grows 1.5% to 2% every year on a $4 trillion market. So it's kind of like saying, oh, I'm losing weight, but I gain 2 pounds every year. It's like, really? That doesn't really make sense. I don't understand how you can say those things. So, I think the stores are the next great digital frontier. You're going to see a multi-billion-dollar shift as people realize that delivering that digital in store is actually more effective than Facebook and Instagram. That it's really that being able to deliver your message at that point of consideration with the product in your hand and 20 feet from the point of sale is just extraordinarily powerful. So it's a really exciting time for us.
So Chandrella, I know.
I had a quick question for you, Trevor, because to your point, I realized in the last few years that gas stations now, when you're getting your gas, they have like the little bitty camera there, right in there, or a little TV, and they're giving you advertisements on different product at that moment, and you feel emboldened while you're pumping your gas. You're like, oh, I didn't know that, and then now you pick up your phone, and then I gotta catch that. And I am a connoisseur of gathering stuff, and I'm on Amazon. To your point, last year, I mean, I never thought I could fall in love with a place. It was like, oh, well, just go check Amazon. Between Google and Amazon, I should have some stock. Like, really, then I can really do something. But my question for you, Trevor, is that now that the Amazon store, like Whole Foods, was purchased where I live at, right? And now it's all Amazon. Do you feel that, because it feels like that particular store is very innovative, and it feels like a marketplace to have what you're talking about? You know, I guess the universal stores like Walgreens, or I don't know where you guys all at, but Walgreens, all the medications may or may not. But do you see this going trending in that way, to kind of partner with people like an Amazon, that when you go in there, you feel like you're on a movie set? Everything is so microbitic and it's very different. So I just was wondering, because I like it and it's different, but I'm curious to know that, since we're moving from the gas station now to where you're going in the store talking to me, buy this bottle of wine or this cell phone. Just asking that.
Yeah, so captive audiences are great, like the gas station. We work with Invisalign to help bring their message to dentist offices, and you can actually take a before and after picture of your smile, what they call smile view. We work with virtual try-on and cosmetics, where you can actually, like, literally through kind of a magic mirror screen, just put lipstick on your face. But to your question about where this is going, is you mentioned Walgreens. Walgreens is installing 5G, the next generation of internet service, across 9,000 stores, specifically for interactive displays like Perch. And Amazon has done some interesting things where, with their Amazon Go store, which they've just rebranded to Amazon Fresh, where you can just pick up the product and go. But very interestingly, since they've picked up Whole Foods, their physical retail sales have gone down, not up. And there are rumors flying that they're going to extend what they're doing in physical retail and open up many more stores, whether it's these Amazon Go kind of convenience stores, or more recently, they're looking to do pharmacies. You can see that Amazon understands that the future of retail for them and retail growth is in physical stores. And we think that that's really encouraging. And we're going to start seeing the melding of these technologies. Now, if retailers will not work with Amazon because they are competitive, and so they really have to build their own technologies, their own ways of connecting with customers, of providing innovative programs for brands. And that's where kind of Perch sits at the nexus of the retailer, the brand, and the shopper.
Good for you. So brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, I was kind of blown away. I ordered a sweater on Amazon as a gift and it didn't fit the person, and I returned it to Whole Foods.
Right.
and picked up a jug of milk too.
Right. But Amazon is always pushing the envelope. So I do think they're going to adapt what you have. And you said Macy's is used. I love Macy's. And
me too.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going there after this. I'm gonna see if it's in my Macy's or not.
Remember, this show is running at 11 p.m. So.
Oh, at night, right? Oh, we're taping earlier in the day, right?
Well, you found that 24-hour Macy's, didn't you?
I wish. Only on Thanksgiving, right? But
well, I know, I guess I'm amazed at all the technology and how the world is changing. I also wonder, though, if at some point they're just going to start putting chips in my head and controlling me from so many different angles,
Richard, there's no way anybody could ever control you. I don't think you have to.
They couldn't make a chip big enough. That's the problem.
I don't think you have to worry about it.
But I mean, all of these things are great, and I guess the bottom line really is does this help the consumer get what they want? And does this give the retailers the information they need to give the consumers what they want, right? And your technology is really breaking the envelope, pushing the envelope in those areas.
Well, I think a problem for consumers too, which may be one reason why brick and mortar's doing so well, is that returns kill them. And they get a lot more returns when you buy online, like that sweater I bought, right? Because you can't try it on.
Right.
And
yeah, it turns out all the profits are generated by stores. It's much more expensive to ship individual products in most categories. Return rates are higher. The cost of acquisition online is higher, as Facebook and Instagram are, pulling all the margins out of the business. The true profit centers are stores. And so, there's a variety of reasons why we're really bullish about, the future of retail being very physical.
well, I hope you can do it for Cali'flour Foods, because that would be awesome to see Amy using your product, your technology.
Think that's great.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're out of time, but Trevor, it's really been great talking with you, and thank you so much for sharing all your brilliant ideas and peach I'm sorry, Peach Interactive.
Perch.
I'm sorry, I lived too long in Georgia. Perch Interactive, and what a great company, and it's been such a pleasure to have you here. So
Thank you.
yeah.
So you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the Voice of New York, with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guests on Shondrella Avery, and this has just been a fabulous show. Thanks, you guys, for coming. We'll be right. What?
And after we come back, I'll have a large chip in my head.
We'll be right back. Oh, Lord.
Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. I'd say this is one of the best shows ever, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. This has been a really fun show and really cool stuff. Like
Yeah.
we always talk about being about the future. This feels like futuristic.
I know. I feel like I'm already in the future right this moment.
Okay. I'll go with that. Anyway, you want to know who made us feel this way?
Anyway,
So
sure.
we had our guest, Shondrella Avery. That's Shondrella Avery, Avery. And she's an actress, a producer, a comedian. She's also giving back to the community. Wonderful person.
Napoleon Dynamite and The Secret Life of Bees.
Yes.
Go see
And
them again.
you can find her at Shondrella Avery on Facebook and Instagram, and just at Shondrella on Twitter. So look her up. You'll be amazed and impressed.
Just like we are.
Yeah, we could get someone on this calendar. And then I talked a little bit about Fireside Directory. So look at my YouTube channel if you want to see that right now, because I'm working on my website. Then we had Craig DeVizio, and he is CraigDivizio.com is his website. He's also written a book, I Got the Job. So he helps you get the job of your dreams. Right?
He absolutely does. And even if you don't get a job, you can buy a book that says, I got the job, and tell everybody that you have the job.
Okay. And then we had Amy Lacy, who makes a lot of your favorite foods using cauliflower. So they're healthier and lower calorie too. So her,
I'm just going to say, go cauliflower.
so her website is Cali, like California, CALI, flour, FOLOUR foods.com. So Cali'flourfoods.com. She also has a book, Cali'flour Kitchen, which I want to buy, especially for my daughter, but I'm so lazy, I will just buy her frozen foods. Because I do need to eat more healthfully at some points, especially if you can eat pizza and it's healthy. That's like
that's the new wonder food.
Yeah.
I
Healthy
love
pizza.
Healthy pizza. We need it.
So, and then Trevor Sumner with Perch Interactive. So it's TREVORSUMNER.com is his personal website. And then it's Perch, like a bird perching, PERCH Interactive. It is the future of retail and internet shopping, digital marketing, all wrapped up into one. And you'll be seeing it in the stores. And when you see it, you'll know what it is, but it's very cool and very powerful.
I forgot to ask Trevor the most important question. So does perch refer to like a bird perch or like a fish or something else?
Good question. So because the camera is above looking down, it's perched above, giving you the intelligence you need so that, when you touch a product, it can wake up and tell you about the product. So that's how we initially came up with the name.
Excellent.
Got it. So now we know even more. So
we want to hear more from Shondrella.
I think we should ask her what she thought about all this.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I feel humbled and I'm very thankful. This was a very, very wonderful time. Even though it's in the morning for me, it's in the evening for all of our listeners. I'm so humbled and appreciative of all the knowledge that I learned today. Like all of this is great storytelling. And I think universally, we all felt the same way. You both picked great people to kind of come on and tell the versions of their stories and actually just the spirit of love. And that's really the last thing I'll say. The the one thing about storytelling is really just doing the best that you can to pour out love. And in our country today, we need it. What a diverse group of people, wonderful women. We've got half women, half men, which is great, 3 and 3, right? The space of love and giving back and honoring yourself and your voice and your gift that God has given you. So I want to thank you all because I've learned it all and I'm buying everybody's everything. We will connect after this. We're all going to be besties and we're going to high tea. So let's get and then I might put y'all in my story. So, and then also too, people, please, there's a film that I'm promoting called Free Byrd that I produced. And it's such a great film. It's on Amazon.com right now. It's like $3.99. Support filmmakers, independent filmmakers. I've made about 14 films, and this one, Free Byrd, I think everyone will appreciate it. Like they do Napoleon Dynamite, it's for all people, and you can see yourselves interwoven in the story. So I thank you so very much. I'm humbled, and I hope that all of your followers and listeners come and support us all because we are entrepreneurs on the go, and this is the next level for us.
Wow. I think that's fantastic. I don't think that there's any way to follow that.
You
So
want to
thank
come
you.
and host our next show?
But
Well, my minor is in broadcasting, so I do host. And I do a lot of hosting.
Okay, awesome. Well, we have to have you back. I love you.
we get $1 million per episode, so the pay is good.
Yes.
Well, we couldn't do this without our team at iHeart. They're wonderful, and thanks all of our listeners for listening and participating. Keep those cards and letters coming in, those emails too. And also, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our producer, Noah Fleischman, our program coordinator, Alicia Morrissey, our video editor, Angela Wolf, and the whole iHeart team. So you are listening to Passage to Profit on WOR 710, the voice of New York.
And that's a wrap.